The hammock snapped with a thunderous crack, and Brooke Geller screamed as she plummeted from her peaceful afternoon reverie. Instead of the punishing impact of solid ground, she landed in a pair of muscular arms that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Stunned, she looked up into the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever seen, belonging to a face that could have been carved by Michelangelo himself. "Are you okay?" The deep voice matched the chiseled jawline of the stranger who held her with surprising ease. Yes," Brooke stammered, her pulse racing from both the fall and the unexpected rescue. "Thank you for catching me." "My timing was fortunate," he replied with a small smile, carefully setting her down on her feet. "I was just passing by when I heard the snap." Brooke brushed off her sundress, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance. Her long auburn hair had fallen from its loose bun, cascading around her shoulders. "I guess I should have listened when the rental property manager warned about the old hammock." "Some warnings are worth heeding," the man agreed, extending his hand. "I'm Noah Dawson." "Brooke Geller," she replied, accepting his handshake. His palm was warm and calloused, the hand of someone who worked with more than just keyboards and conference tables. "Do you live around here?" "I own the property next door," Noah said, gesturing vaguely toward the neighboring estate. "Just beyond those trees." Brooke's eyes widened slightly. The neighboring property was a sprawling coastal estate that had been featured in architectural magazines. She had glimpsed it only from a distance since arriving at her rented cottage 3 days ago. "That's your place?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "It's beautiful what I can see of it, anyway." Noah shrugged, seeming almost uncomfortable with the observation. "It's home." "What brings you to the coast?" "Vacation, sort of," Brooke replied. "I'm a wildlife photographer. I'm here for a month to document the migratory patterns of the coastal birds for National Geographic." Interest flickered across Noah's face. "That's impressive." "I've always admired National Geographic's photography." "It's a dream job," Brooke admitted, "though apparently my hammock relaxation techniques need work." Noah laughed, a warm sound that seemed to resonate through the sea air. "Perhaps you should stick to solid ground for your downtime." "Probably wise," Brooke agreed with a small laugh. "Though this cottage's charm is partly its proximity to nature, I wanted to feel immersed in it." "Well, falling from hammocks is certainly one way to get closer to nature," Noah teased. Brooke felt a blush creep up her cheeks. There was something about this man beyond his obvious good looks that was both intriguing and disarming. "Can I offer you some iced tea?" she found herself asking. "As a thank you for the heroic catch." Noah hesitated, glancing at his watch. "I wish I could, but I have a conference call in 15 minutes. Rain check, of course," Brooke replied, trying to hide her disappointment. "I do morning walks along the beach most days," he offered. "Around 7. If you're ever up that early with your camera, maybe I'll see you there." "I'm usually chasing the dawn light," Brooke admitted. "So there's a good chance." With a nod and another brief smile that did strange things to Brooke's equilibrium, Noah turned and walked back toward the path that led to his property. She watched him go, noticing his confident stride and the way the ocean breeze ruffled his dark hair. Only after he disappeared from view did Brooke realize she was still standing beside the broken hammock, her heart beating faster than a fall warranted. She knelt to gather the pieces of the collapsed hammock, wondering about the man who had appeared just in time to catch her. Noah Dawson. Her mysterious neighbor who owned what was clearly a multi-million-dollar estate, but had hands that suggested he wasn't afraid of manual labor. The contradictions intrigued her, and despite her determination to focus on her assignment, Brooke found herself looking forward to the possibility of seeing him again on the beach tomorrow morning. The next morning, Brooke woke well before dawn, feeling an unusual flutter of anticipation as she packed her camera gear. She told herself it was purely professional, the lighting would be perfect for capturing the shore birds feeding at low tide. But she knew part of her eagerness was the possibility of running into Noah again. The beach was deserted when she arrived, the pre-dawn light painting everything in soft blues and grays. Brooke set up her tripod near a cluster of rocks where sandpipers often gathered and waited, camera at the ready. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, casting golden light across the gentle waves, she lost herself in her work, capturing image after image of the birds darting along the shoreline. "Good morning." The deep voice behind her nearly made Brooke jump. She turned to find Noah standing a few feet away, dressed in running shorts and a faded t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. "You weren't kidding about chasing the dawn light," he said with a smile. "It's the magical hour," Brooke replied, returning his smile. "Everything looks more beautiful bathed in this light." Noah glanced toward the horizon. "I can't argue with that." He moved closer to look at the display on her camera. "May I?" Brooke nodded, tilting the screen so he could see the images she'd captured. Their shoulders almost touched as he leaned in, and she caught the scent of salt air and something citrusy that must have been his soap. "These are incredible," Noah said, genuine admiration in his voice. "You have a gift for capturing movement." "Thanks," Brooke replied, pleased by his interest. "It's all about patience and anticipation. You have to learn to recognize the patterns, to know when a bird is about to take flight before it even knows itself." Noah straightened, giving her an appraising look. "That's an interesting perspective. Do you apply that philosophy to people too?" "Sometimes," she admitted, "though humans are far less predictable than birds." "I'd think that makes them more interesting to study," Noah remarked. "True, but I'll stick with my feathered subjects for now," Brooke laughed. "Less complicated." Noah smiled, then gestured down the beach. "I usually continue my walk to that point and back. Would you like to join me? Or would I be interrupting your work?" Brooke considered her schedule. She'd already captured several promising shots and the birds would be here tomorrow. "I'd love to join you. Just let me pack up my gear." As they walked along the shore, Noah kept a respectful distance, but Brooke was acutely aware of his presence beside her. The morning was peaceful, with only the sounds of crashing waves and crying gulls to break the silence. "So, what do you do, Noah?" Brooke finally asked. "When you're not rescuing women from broken hammocks, that is." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I run a shipping company, Dawson Maritime." Brooke nearly stumbled. Dawson Maritime was one of the largest privately owned shipping companies in the world. She'd read about it in business magazines. It was worth billions. "You're that Dawson?" she asked, unable to hide her surprise. Noah nodded, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Guilty as charged." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound so shocked," Brooke said quickly. "I just didn't expect." "I mean, you don't seem like a billionaire," Noah supplied, his tone light but his eyes watching her carefully. "I was going to say you don't seem like someone who spends all day in boardrooms," Brooke finished. "Your hands, they're not typical CEO hands." Noah looked down at his palms, which bore calluses and a few small scars. "I grew up working on ships before I took over the business side. I still like to get my hands dirty when I can. It keeps me connected to what we actually do, not just the numbers on a spreadsheet." Brooke nodded, appreciating his honesty. "That's admirable. Too many executives lose touch with the real work." "My father taught me that," Noah said. "He started the company with one cargo ship, and he never forgot what it was like to load crates and navigate through a storm." "He sounds like a wise man." "He was," Noah replied softly. "He passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry," Brooke said genuinely. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, reaching the point Noah had indicated. The sun was higher now, warming the air and sparkling on the water's surface. "What about your family?" Noah asked as they turned to head back. "Are they supportive of your globe-trotting career?" Brooke hesitated. "My parents are both professors literature and philosophy. They had dreams of me following in their academic footsteps, so my choice to pursue photography was. Let's just say it wasn't their first choice for me. But they came around," Noah guessed. "Eventually. When my first National Geographic spread was published, my dad framed it. That was his way of saying he was proud, even if he still sometimes mentions interesting doctoral programs when we talk." Noah chuckled. "Parents, they never stop hoping we'll take their advice." "Speaking from experience?" Brooke asked. "My father wanted me to study maritime law, not business," Noah admitted. "We butted heads over it for years, but he respected my decision in the end." They had reached Brooke's initial spot where her camera bag waited. "Well, this is me," she said, suddenly reluctant for their walk to end. "I enjoyed the company," Noah said, his blue eyes holding hers. "Would you consider having dinner with me tonight? There's a great seafood place about 20 minutes down the coast." Brooke felt her heart quicken. "I'd like that." "I'll pick you up at 7, Noah suggested. "Perfect," Brooke replied, trying to sound casual despite the flutter of excitement in her chest. Noah smiled, then continued his run along the beach. Brooke watched him for a moment before gathering her equipment, wondering what she was getting herself into. A dinner date with a billionaire was definitely not part of her assignment plans. But something about Noah Dawson made her want to take the risk. That evening, Brooke found herself changing outfits for the third time, something she rarely bothered with during field assignments. She finally settled on a simple blue sundress that brought out the green in her eyes, and a pair of sandals that were dressier than her usual beach footwear but still comfortable. At precisely 7, she heard a knock at the cottage door. Noah stood on the porch, dressed in khaki pants and a crisp white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. He looked casual yet polished and disarmingly handsome. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes taking in her appearance with evident appreciation. "Thank you," Brooke replied, feeling a blush creep up her cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself." Noah grinned and gestured toward the driveway where a classic Jeep Wrangler was parked. "I thought we'd take the scenic route. Is that okay?" Brooke had half expected some luxury sports car, given Noah's wealth. The rugged Jeep seemed to fit him better somehow. "That sounds perfect." The drive along the coast was breathtaking, with the sun beginning its descent over the ocean, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. Noah kept the conversation easy, asking about Brooke's various photography assignments and sharing stories about the coastal region. "This area has been my escape for years," he explained as they wound down a cliff-side road. "When the corporate world gets too suffocating, I come here to remember what matters." "And what matters to Noah Dawson?" Brooke asked, genuinely curious. Noah glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "The real things. Connection, purpose, moments that can't be bought or manufactured." He shrugged, as if embarrassed by his earnestness. "Sorry, that sounded pretentious." "Not at all," Brooke assured him. "I think most people are searching for those same things." The restaurant was perched on a bluff overlooking the ocean, with large windows offering panoramic views. Despite its elegant appearance, the atmosphere inside was relaxed, with weathered wood tables and nautical decor. "Mr. Dawson, wonderful to see you," the host greeted them warmly. "Your usual table is ready." They were led to a corner table next to a window, where the view of the sunset over the water was unobstructed. The host pulled out Brooke's chair and presented them with menus. "You must come here often," Brooke observed after the host left. "Whenever I'm in town," Noah admitted. "It's family-owned, 3 generations of fishermen. Everything on the menu was swimming this morning. Their server appeared with water and a bottle of white wine that Noah hadn't ordered but nodded approval for. "Jackson knows my preferences," he explained. "But we can choose something else if you'd prefer." "I trust your judgment," Brooke said. As they studied the menus, Noah pointed out his favorite dishes, describing each with enthusiasm. "The Ciapino is incredible. Antonio, the chef, uses his grandfather's recipe from Sicily." They ended up sharing several appetizers and entrees, family style. The food was exceptional fresh, simply prepared to highlight the natural flavors of the seafood. Throughout the meal, Brooke found herself increasingly drawn to Noah's intelligence and his unexpected humility. He asked thoughtful questions about her work and listened attentively to her answers, seeming genuinely interested in her perspective. "What made you choose wildlife photography?" he asked as they shared a decadent chocolate dessert. Brooke considered the question. "I've always been fascinated by moments that most people miss, the split second when a hummingbird's wings catch the light just so, or the tender way a mother wolf nuzzles her pups when she thinks no one is watching. Those glimpses reveal so much about the world around us." Noah nodded, his eyes never leaving her face. "That's beautiful. You're capturing truth." "I try to," she agreed. "What about you? What drew you to shipping?" "The vastness of it," Noah replied without hesitation. "The idea that we connect continents, that what we do makes it possible for someone in a tiny village in Africa to access medicine, or for an artist in South America to share their work with the world." He paused, swirling his wine. "Of course, most days it's just logistics and negotiations, but the bigger purpose keeps me going." Their conversation flowed easily, and Brooke was surprised when she glanced at her watch to see that 3 hours had passed. The restaurant had emptied around them, though no one had rushed them or hinted that they should leave. "I've kept you too long," Noah said, noticing her check the time. "Not at all," Brooke assured him. "This has been lovely." Noah paid the bill despite Brooke's attempt to contribute, waving away her protest. "Please, it's my pleasure. Consider it part of my thank you for making my beach walk infinitely more interesting this morning." The night air was cooler as they left the restaurant, and Noah offered Brooke his jacket. The gesture was old-fashioned but sincere, and she accepted gratefully, slipping her arms into the sleeves that carried his warmth and scent. They drove back along the coast, the moon now casting a silver path across the dark water. Noah had put on some soft jazz, and the music filled the comfortable silence between them. When they reached Brooke's cottage, Noah walked her to the door. "I'd like to see you again," he said simply, his blue eyes earnest in the porch light. Brooke nodded, surprised by how much she wanted that too. "I'd like that. Tomorrow evening, I could show you some of the hidden spots along the coast that would be perfect for your photography. Places most tourists never find." "That sounds wonderful," Brooke agreed. Noah leaned down, hesitating just slightly before pressing a gentle kiss to her cheek. "Good night, Brooke." "Good night, Noah," she replied, her skin tingling where his lips had touched. As she watched him drive away, Brooke wondered at the unexpected turn her assignment had taken. She had come here to photograph birds, not to fall for a billionaire with soulful eyes and calloused hands. Yet as she stepped into her cottage, she couldn't suppress the smile that spread across her face or the anticipation that fluttered in her chest at the thought of seeing him again. The next morning, Brooke was up early again, but this time she headed to a different part of the beach, wanting to ensure she made progress on her actual assignment. As much as she had enjoyed her time with Noah, she reminded herself that she was here to work. The tide was out, revealing tide pools teeming with life. Brooke spent hours photographing shore birds feeding among the exposed rocks, careful to maintain enough distance not to disturb them. By mid-morning, she had captured several sequences she was pleased with, including a dramatic moment when a great blue heron speared a fish. As she packed up her equipment, Brooke found herself constantly checking the time, counting the hours until her evening with Noah. It had been years since she'd felt this kind of anticipation about seeing someone. Her career kept her constantly on the move, making long-term relationships difficult to maintain. The few men she had dated over the years had eventually grown tired of her unpredictable schedule and frequent absences. Noah had texted her earlier, asking if she'd be comfortable on a boat for their evening excursion. Brooke had replied affirmatively. She had spent plenty of time on boats for various assignments. Now, as she returned to her cottage to download her morning's work, she wondered what Noah had planned. The afternoon dragged by as Brooke sorted through her photographs, selecting the strongest images to edit. Usually, she lost herself in this process, but today, her mind kept wandering to thoughts of Noah, his smile, the intensity in his eyes when he listened to her, the gentle brush of his lips against her cheek. At 5 o'clock, Brooke finally set aside her work and prepared for the evening. She opted for practical clothes, jeans, a light sweater, and deck shoes, guessing that Noah's plans might involve more than just a leisurely cruise. Noah arrived at 6, driving a different vehicle than the previous night, a rugged Land Rover that looked equally at home in the executive parking lot or on a wilderness expedition. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked with a boyish grin that made him look younger than his probable mid-30s. "Always," Brooke replied honestly. Adventure was her professional currency after all. They drove to a small private marina where a sleek sailboat awaited them. Unlike the ostentatious yachts that dominated most harbors, Noah's vessel was elegant but understated, clearly expensive, but designed for serious sailing rather than just showing off. "The Windward," Noah said, gesturing to the boat. "My father taught me to sail on her." "She's beautiful," Brooke said, admiring the clean lines and polished teak. "She's been in the family for 20 years, Noah explained as he helped Brooke aboard. "My father believed every shipping executive should know what it feels like to be at the mercy of the wind and waves. Keeps you humble." Once aboard, Noah moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the boat for departure. Brooke offered to help, and he readily accepted, giving her clear instructions. They worked together smoothly, as if they'd done this many times before. As they sailed out of the harbor, the setting sun bathed everything in golden light. Noah guided the boat along the coastline, pointing out landmarks and sharing local history. His knowledge of the area was impressive, reflecting a deep connection to this stretch of coast. "There," he said, pointing to a secluded cove bordered by dramatic cliffs. "That's where we're heading. The light should be perfect right about now." He navigated into the sheltered waters of the cove and dropped anchor. The cliffs rose dramatically on 3 sides, creating a natural amphitheater. As if on cue, seabirds began returning to their cliff-side nests, creating a spectacular display against the orange-pink sky. "Oh my goodness," Brooke breathed, reaching instinctively for her camera. "This is incredible." Noah watched with evident pleasure as she photographed the scene, occasionally suggesting different angles. "My grandfather used to bring me here when I was a boy," he explained. "He called it the evening ballet, said no theater in New York could compete." "He was right," Brooke agreed, lowering her camera to simply absorb the beauty around them. "Thank you for sharing this with me." "I haven't brought anyone here before," Noah admitted quietly. "It's always been my private sanctuary." The significance of his words wasn't lost on Brooke. She turned to find him watching her with an intensity that made her heart race. "I'm honored," she said softly. Noah moved closer, his hand coming up to gently brush a strand of hair from her face. "There's something about you, Brooke. I can't quite put my finger on it, but from the moment you fell into my arms, I've felt drawn to you." Brooke's breath caught in her throat. "I've felt it too." Noah's hand lingered on her cheek, his eyes searching hers. Then slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned down and kissed her. His lips were warm and gentle, the kiss tentative at first, then deeper as Brooke responded, her camera forgotten as she melted into his embrace. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, the sky had darkened to deep purple, the first stars appearing overhead. Noah kept his arms around her waist, holding her close as they gazed at the emerging night sky. "Hungry?" he asked after a moment, reluctantly releasing her. "I brought dinner." From a compartment beneath one of the seats, Noah produced a wicker basket containing an impressive spread: fresh bread, cheeses, grilled vegetables, cold roast chicken, and a bottle of wine. He set up a small table on deck, complete with battery-operated candles that cast a warm glow as darkness fully enveloped them. "This is magical," Brooke said as they enjoyed the meal, the boat gently rocking beneath them, the sounds of water lapping against the hull and distant bird calls the only interruption to their conversation. As they talked, sharing stories from their lives, Brooke found herself revealing things she rarely discussed: her childhood dreams, her moments of doubt about her chosen path, her fear of settling in one place for too long. Noah listened attentively, offering insights without judgment and sharing his own vulnerabilities in return. "The company took off faster than anyone expected," he explained as they sipped wine under the stars. "Suddenly, I was responsible for thousands of employees, making decisions that affected lives around the globe. There are days when the weight of that is overwhelming." "Is that why you come here?" Brooke asked. "To escape the pressure," Noah nodded, looking out at the dark water. "This place grounds me, reminds me that I'm just one small part of something much bigger. The ocean doesn't care if our quarterly earnings exceed projections or if a deal falls through. Nature has a way of putting things in perspective," Brooke agreed. "It's why I've never been able to give up field work, even when I've had opportunities for more stable positions." "You need the connection," Noah said, understanding in his eyes. "The reminder of what's real." "Exactly," Brooke whispered, struck by how perfectly he'd articulated what she felt. Later, as they sailed back to the marina under a canopy of stars, Noah let Brooke take the wheel, standing behind her with his arms around her to guide her hands. The warmth of his chest against her back, the strength in his hands as they covered hers, the soft murmur of his voice in her ear, it all combined to create an intimacy that left Brooke feeling both exhilarated and oddly peaceful. Back at her cottage, their goodnight kiss was longer, deeper, filled with a promise of more to come. When Noah finally pulled away, his eyes were dark with desire, but he made no move to take things further. "I'll call you tomorrow," he asked, his voice husky. Brooke nodded, unable to trust her voice. As she watched him drive away for the second night in a row, she knew with absolute certainty that whatever was happening between them was far more significant than a vacation fling. The next morning, Brooke woke to find a text from Noah. "Emergency at work. Have to fly to Singapore. Back in 3 days. Think of me." Disappointed but understanding his was not a job that allowed for complete disconnection, Brooke texted back, "I will. Safe travels." With Noah away, Brooke threw herself into her work, exploring different areas of the coastline and capturing some of her best shots of the trip so far. Yet despite her professional satisfaction, She found herself missing Noah's presence, his insightful comments, his easy laughter, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. On the third day of his absence, Brooke was photographing from a rocky outcropping when her foot slipped. She managed to save her camera, but in the process wrenched her ankle badly. Limping back to her cottage was painful and slow, and by the time she arrived, her ankle was swollen and throbbing. After elevating it and applying ice, Brooke realized she needed supplies, pain relievers stronger than what she had on hand, more ice and food, since she'd planned to shop that afternoon. The nearest store was 5 miles away, and walking was out of the question. She was contemplating her limited options when her phone rang. "I just landed," Noah's voice came through, warm and welcome. "Dinner tonight?" "I'd love to, but I've had a bit of an accident," Brooke explained, describing her injured ankle. "I'm coming over," Noah said immediately, concern evident in his voice. "Do you need anything, medication, food?" "Actually, yes to both," Brooke admitted. "I'm running low on supplies." "I'll be there in 30 minutes, Noah promised. True to his word, Noah arrived half an hour later, arms laden with bags. He looked tired from travel, his usually immaculate appearance slightly rumpled, yet his first concern was for her. "Let me see," he said, kneeling beside the couch where Brooke had stationed herself. He gently examined her ankle, his touch careful and clinical. "It doesn't look broken, but it's a nasty sprain. You should probably have it X-rayed to be sure." "It's feeling better already," Brooke lied, not wanting to be a burden. Noah gave her a skeptical look. "I can have a doctor here within the hour." "That's really not necessary," Brooke protested. "I've had sprains before. Rest, ice, compression, elevation, I know the drill." Noah didn't look convinced but didn't push the issue. Instead, he unpacked the bags he'd brought: pain relievers, an elastic bandage, a proper ice pack, and enough groceries to feed her for a week. "You didn't need to do all this," Brooke said, touched by his thoughtfulness. "I wanted to," Noah replied simply. He moved to her kitchen and began putting away the groceries, then prepared a simple but delicious meal of pasta with fresh vegetables and grilled chicken. They ate on the couch, with Brooke's leg elevated on pillows and Noah sitting at the other end. He told her about his trip, the complications that had arisen with a new port facility in Singapore, the cultural differences that had to be navigated, the eventual resolution that had satisfied all parties. "Enough about work," he said finally. "Did you get some good shots while I was gone?" Brooke reached for her laptop and showed him the images she'd captured over the past few days. Noah studied each one carefully, asking questions about her technique and the behavior of the birds she'd photographed. "These are extraordinary," he said, genuinely impressed. "You have an incredible eye for the decisive moment." As the evening progressed, Noah made no move to leave. Instead, he suggested they watch a movie, and Brooke found herself curled against his side, her injured ankle forgotten as she enjoyed the simple pleasure of being close to him. When her eyes began to droop from the pain medication, Noah gently shifted her so her head rested in his lap, his fingers absently stroking her hair. Brooke woke hours later to find herself being carried to her bedroom. "Noah," she murmured sleepily. "You fell asleep," he explained softly. "I didn't want to wake you, but I thought you'd be more comfortable in bed." He laid her carefully on the mattress, removed her shoes, and pulled the covers over her. "I'll sleep on the couch in case you need anything in the night." Half asleep, Brooke caught his hand. "Stay with me." "Just to sleep," she added, suddenly more awake and aware of what she was asking. Noah hesitated, then nodded. "Let me lock up." He returned a few minutes later, having turned off lights and secured the cottage. After removing his shoes and belt, he stretched out beside her, still fully clothed. Brooke shifted closer, resting her head on his chest, comforted by the steady beat of his heart beneath her ear. "Thank you for taking care of me," she whispered. Noah's arms tightened around her. "Always," he replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. As Brooke drifted back to sleep, wrapped in Noah's protective embrace, she realized that in just a few days, this man had become important to her in a way no one had before. The thought should have frightened her. She had always valued her independence, her freedom to move wherever her work took her. Instead, she felt a sense of rightness, as if a puzzle piece she hadn't known was missing had finally clicked into place. The next morning, Brooke woke to find Noah already up, speaking quietly on his phone in the living room. Through the partially open bedroom door, she could hear him rescheduling meetings and delegating tasks. "I need 2 days," he was saying firmly. "The Melbourne contract negotiations can wait until Monday. Have Marcus handle the preliminary discussions with the union representatives." A pause. "Yes, I'm sure. This is important." When he ended the call and returned to the bedroom, Brooke pretended she had just woken up. "Good morning," she said, stretching carefully to avoid jarring her ankle. "How's the patient?" Noah asked with a soft smile, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Better," Brooke replied honestly. The swelling had decreased overnight, though the ankle was still tender. "You didn't have to stay, you know. I'm sure you have a million things to do after being away." "Nothing that can't wait," Noah said firmly. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you actually rest that ankle instead of trying to climb back on those rocks." Brooke laughed, caught out. "I was thinking of trying a different spot, actually." "The marsh area to the north?" "Absolutely not," Noah interrupted, his tone firm but his eyes twinkling. "Doctor's orders. 24 hours of complete rest." "You're not a doctor," Brooke pointed out. "No, but I played one in my 3rd grade play," Noah countered. "Very convincing performance, I was told." His playfulness was infectious, and Brooke found herself agreeing to a day of rest. Noah made breakfast perfectly fluffy omelets with fresh herbs and cheese, and they ate on the cottage's small porch, watching the ocean in the distance. "What would you normally be doing today?" Brooke asked, curious about the responsibilities he had set aside to care for her. Noah considered the question. "Board meeting in the morning, contract negotiations in the afternoon, probably dinner with potential investors in the evening." "You've abandoned all that to babysit a photographer with a sprained ankle?" Brooke asked, feeling a mixture of guilt and warmth at his prioritizing her. "I haven't abandoned anything," Noah corrected gently. "I've delegated." "That's what good leaders do, build a team they can trust to handle things in their absence." "Still, I'm keeping you from important work," Brooke insisted. Noah set down his coffee cup and took her hand. "Brooke, look at me." When she met his gaze, he continued, "For years, I've put the company first. Every decision, every moment of my time has been dictated by what Dawson Maritime needed. And it's been successful. We've grown beyond my father's wildest dreams." He paused, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. "But success isn't just about business. I've missed too many moments that mattered because I was focused on the next deal, the next expansion. I don't want to miss this moment with you." The sincerity in his eyes took Brooke's breath away. No one had ever prioritized time with her over professional obligations before. Her past relationships had always taken a back seat to her career or her partners, leading to inevitable disappointment and resentment. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "You don't have to say anything," Noah assured her. "Just let me be here for you today." And so Brooke did. They spent the day in comfortable domesticity, Noah reading reports on his tablet while Brooke edited photos, occasional conversations interspersed with companionable silence. For lunch, Noah insisted on making soup from scratch, and Brooke watched with amusement and admiration as he chopped vegetables with the precision of a professional chef. "Where did you learn to cook?" she asked as delicious aromas filled the cottage. "My mother insisted that both my sister and I learn basic life skills, regardless of how successful we might become," Noah explained. "She said, 'Money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a private chef. Still, you should know how to feed yourself if that chef quits.'" Brooke laughed. "I like your mother already." "You'd get along well," Noah said with a smile. "She has a similar independent streak." As evening approached, Noah suggested they move to the porch to watch the sunset. He carefully helped Brooke navigate the steps, his arm around her waist providing support. They settled on the porch swing, Brooke's injured leg elevated on a footstool, Noah's arm draped casually across her shoulders. The sky transformed into a canvas of orange, pink, and purple as the sun descended toward the horizon. Brooke, who had photographed countless sunsets around the world, found herself content to simply experience this one, nestled against Noah's side. "Penny for your thoughts," Noah murmured as the colors deepened. "I was just thinking how strange life is," Brooke replied honestly. "A week ago, I was focused entirely on my assignment. Now here I am, watching the sunset with a billionaire who makes homemade soup and sleeps on my couch to make sure I'm okay." Noah chuckled. "When you put it that way, it does sound improbable." "But nice," Brooke added, tilting her face up to his. "Very nice," Noah agreed, lowering his head to kiss her softly. The kiss deepened, filled with a tenderness that made Brooke's heart ache. When they finally parted, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "I think I'm falling for you, Brooke Geller," he whispered, "and it terrifies me." "Why?" Brooke asked, her voice equally soft. "Because you have wings," Noah replied. "Your life is about movement, freedom. Mine is rooted in responsibility, obligation." "Maybe we balance each other," Brooke suggested, touching his face gently. "You ground me, I help you fly." Noah smiled, his eyes reflecting the last golden rays of the setting sun. "I'd like that." The moment was interrupted by Noah's phone ringing. He grimaced apologetically and answered it, his expression quickly turning serious. "When did this happen?" he asked the caller. After listening for a moment, he sighed. "I'll be there first thing tomorrow. No, it can't wait." He ended the call and turned to Brooke, regret evident in his features. "There's been an accident at one of our facilities in Seattle. No one was hurt, but it's going to require my personal attention." "Of course," Brooke said, understanding immediately. "You have to go." "I hate leaving you like this," Noah said, frustration evident in his voice. "I'll be fine," Brooke assured him. "My ankle's already much better. Go take care of your people." Noah hesitated, clearly torn. "At least let me arrange for someone to check in on you." "My housekeeper, Elena, could stop by." "Noah," Brooke interrupted gently. "I've navigated far more challenging situations than a sprained ankle. I promise I'll be okay." Finally convinced, Noah reluctantly prepared to leave. "I'll call you when I land," he promised, kissing her one more time. "And I'll be back as soon as I can." After he left, the cottage felt strangely empty. Brooke hobbled around, testing her ankle and finding it improved enough for careful walking. She settled on the porch swing again, watching the stars appear one by one, thinking about the unexpected turn her life had taken since that fateful moment when her hammock broke. Noah called the next morning from Seattle, sounding tired but determined. The accident had caused significant damage to a loading dock, and he was personally overseeing the investigation and repair plans. "It'll be at least 3 days before I can get back," he said apologetically. "Take the time you need," Brooke replied, meaning it despite her disappointment. "Your work is important." "So are you," Noah countered. "How's the ankle?" "Much better. I'm even thinking of doing some light field work today. Brooke. Noah's tone was warning. Just from the beach, she promised. No rock climbing, I swear. They spoke again that evening, and the next day, and the day after that. Each conversation deepened their connection as they shared details of their days and their lives before they met. Noah told stories of growing up in the shipping industry, of summers spent on cargo ships and winters in boardrooms learning the business from his father. Brooke described remote locations she'd visited for assignments: the Amazon rainforest, the African savanna, the Arctic tundra. By the time Noah returned 4 days later, Brooke's ankle was fully healed, and she had resumed her photography schedule. When he showed up at her cottage, unannounced, she was downloading the day's images to her laptop. "Noah," she exclaimed, genuinely delighted to see him standing in her doorway, looking tired but happy. "I thought you weren't getting back until tomorrow." "I couldn't wait another day," he admitted, dropping his briefcase and crossing the room to take her in his arms. His kiss was hungry, passionate, conveying everything he'd been feeling during their separation. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "I missed you," he said simply. "I missed you too," Brooke replied, surprised by the depth of emotion in her voice. They spent the evening catching up, Noah describing the complex logistics of the dock repairs, Brooke showing him the new images she'd captured. As the night deepened, their conversation gave way to more intimate expressions of the connection that had grown between them even during their separation. In the soft light of dawn, Brooke traced lazy patterns on Noah's bare chest as they lay tangled in the sheets of her bed. "I have to leave in 3 weeks," she said quietly, voicing the reality they had both been avoiding. Noah's arms tightened around her. "I know. My next assignment is in Costa Rica," Brooke continued. 3 months documenting cloud forest birds." Noah was silent for a long moment, his fingers playing with a strand of her hair. "I have an office in San Jose," he finally said, "and the company jet makes the trip in under 6 hours. Brooke raised herself on one elbow to look at him. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we don't have to say goodbye just because you're changing locations," Noah replied, his blue eyes serious. "Not unless you want to." "And after Costa Rica?" Brooke asked. "There's always another assignment, another location. And I have offices in most major cities, or can open them if needed," Noah countered. "Plus a private jet and a very understanding executive team." Brooke sat up, pulling the sheet around her. "Noah, I can't ask you to rearrange your life around my schedule." Noah sat up too, taking her hands in his. "You're not asking, I'm offering. And it's not rearranging my life, it's enriching it." He paused, his expression earnest. "You know what these past 10 days have shown me? That I've been existing, not living. Moving from one business milestone to the next without stopping to experience the world around me." He gestured toward her camera on the bedside table. "You see everything, the beauty, the connections, the fleeting moments that make life meaningful. Being with you has reminded me to look up from the spreadsheets and see the sunset." Brooke felt tears prick her eyes. "That's beautiful, but relationships take more than poetic sentiments. They take compromise, sacrifice." "I'm willing to make those," Noah said firmly. "Are you?" The question hung between them, challenging and honest. Brooke thought about her life before Noah, the professional satisfaction but personal solitude, the freedom that sometimes felt like rootlessness, the connections that were intense but ultimately temporary as she moved from assignment to assignment. "I don't know," she admitted finally. "I've never had a relationship that seemed worth sacrificing my independence for." Instead of being hurt, Noah nodded understanding. "Then let's take it one day at a time. No pressure, no ultimatums. We have 3 more weeks here and then we can decide what comes next." Relief flooded through Brooke. "I'd like that." They sealed their agreement with a kiss that promised both passion and patience, a willingness to explore the possibility of a future together without forcing its shape too quickly. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of shared experiences. When Brooke worked, Noah often accompanied her, either quietly observing or assisting with equipment. His presence never felt intrusive. Instead, he seemed to understand instinctively when to engage and when to give her space to focus on her craft. On days when Noah needed to attend to business, Brooke would sometimes join him at his coastal estate, working on her photo editing in a sunny office he made available to her. She was initially intimidated by the grandeur of his home, a modernist masterpiece of glass and stone that seemed to grow organically from the cliffs, but soon came to appreciate its thoughtful design and the way it connected interior spaces with the natural landscape outside. They fell into an easy rhythm, finding balance between their professional commitments and their growing relationship. Noah introduced Brooke to friends in the area, other business leaders, local artists, the family who owned the seafood restaurant where they'd had their first date. Brooke, in turn, shared her world through her photographs and stories, giving Noah glimpses of places he'd done business in but never truly seen. As the end of Brooke's assignment approached, neither mentioned their impending decision. They lived fully in each moment, building memories and deepening their connection. On their last weekend together before Brooke was scheduled to leave for Costa Rica, Noah suggested they return to the cove where they'd first kissed. The day was perfect for sailing sunny with a steady breeze, and Brooke had packed a picnic lunch for them to enjoy. As they entered the sheltered waters of the cove, Brooke noticed something different about the cliff face. Was that platform there before? She asked, pointing to a small wooden structure jutting out from the rock about halfway up the cliff. Noah feigned surprise. That's new. Let's check it out." He anchored the boat closer to shore than on their previous visit, then helped Brooke into the small dinghy. They rowed to a narrow beach at the base of the cliff, where a set of wooden stairs, nearly invisible until you were right upon them, zigzagged up the rock face. "Did you do this?" Brooke asked, suspicion growing as Noah led her toward the stairs. "I might have commissioned a small improvement to the cove," Noah admitted with a smile. "Consider it an early birthday present." Intrigued, Brooke followed him up the stairs, which were sturdy and well-built despite their rustic appearance. The climb was challenging but not difficult, and the view became increasingly spectacular as they ascended. When they reached the platform, Brooke gasped. It was larger than it had appeared from the water, about 12 feet square, with a railing around 3 sides and the cliff face forming the 4th. A built-in bench ran along the cliffside, and the platform offered an unobstructed view of the entire cove and the ocean beyond. "Noah, this is incredible," Brooke breathed, moving to the railing to take in the panorama. "I thought it might make a good observation point for your photography," Noah explained, joining her. "The angle is perfect for capturing the birds' flight patterns, and the height gives you a different perspective than shooting from the boat or shore." Brooke turned to him, deeply touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "You built this for me, for us," Noah corrected gently. "A place where your passion for photography and my love of this cove could come together." The implication was clear. He had created something permanent, a physical manifestation of his hope for their future together. Brooke felt her heart swell with emotion. "It's perfect," she said, unable to find words adequate to express what the gesture meant to her. Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "There's one more thing," he said, his voice suddenly nervous. Brooke's eyes widened as he opened the box to reveal a ring, not a diamond engagement ring, but a delicate band of platinum inlaid with tiny sapphires the exact color of the ocean below them. "This isn't a proposal," Noah said quickly, seeing her expression. "Not yet. We both agreed to take things slowly, and I respect that." He removed the ring from the box and held it up, the sunlight catching the blue stones. "This is a promise that whatever path we choose together or apart, what we've shared these past weeks has changed me for the better. And if you decide you want to explore a future together, I'll be ready." Tears filled Brooke's eyes. It was perhaps the most perfect non-proposal she could have imagined, acknowledging their connection without pressuring her to make a decision she wasn't ready for. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Noah took her right hand, not her left, another subtle acknowledgement that this wasn't an engagement, and slipped the ring onto her finger. "Like you," he said simply. Brooke looked down at the ring, then up at Noah's face, hopeful, vulnerable, loving. In that moment she knew what she wanted. "Ask me," she said softly. Noah's brow furrowed in confusion. "Ask you what?" "Ask me to stay," Brooke clarified, "or to come back. Or whatever version of together you're imagining." Understanding dawned in Noah's eyes, followed by a cautious hope. "Are you sure? I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm sure," Brooke said firmly. "These weeks with you have shown me that independence doesn't have to mean isolation. That having roots doesn't mean clipping my wings." Noah took both her hands in his expression solemn but joyful. "Brooke Geller, will you come back to me after your Costa Rica assignment? Will you give us a chance to build something lasting together?" "Yes," Brooke replied without hesitation. "Yes to coming back. Yes to building something together. Yes to figuring out how to blend your world and mine." Noah's face broke into a radiant smile, and he pulled her into his arms, lifting her off her feet in his excitement. When he set her down, his expression grew more serious. "I love you," he said, the words simple but weighted with meaning. "I think I've been falling since the moment you fell into my arms." Brooke laughed at the reference to their first meeting, joy bubbling up inside her. "I love you too," she replied, the words feeling right, natural, inevitable. "Who would have thought a broken hammock would lead to this?" "I'm going to frame a piece of that hammock," Noah declared, only half joking. "Best equipment failure of my life." They sealed their promises with a kiss. Standing on the platform Noah had built where their worlds could meet, high enough for Brooke to capture the birds in flight, close enough to the sea for Noah to feel connected to his maritime heritage, and perfectly positioned for them both to witness the beauty around them. 3 months later, Brooke returned from Costa Rica with thousands of photographs, a feature spread in National Geographic, and an undiminished love for Noah. True to his word, he had visited her twice during her assignment, and they had spent countless hours on video calls, sharing their days despite the distance. On her first night back at Noah's coastal home, which was beginning to feel like her home too, they sat on the terrace overlooking the ocean, discussing their future. "I've been thinking," Noah said, his fingers intertwined with hers. "Dawson Maritime has been focusing on expanding our environmental initiatives, reducing our carbon footprint, protecting marine ecosystems, supporting conservation efforts in coastal communities." "That's wonderful," Brooke said, genuinely impressed. Noah had always been environmentally conscious, but his commitment had deepened since meeting her and seeing the natural world through her eyes. "We need someone to document these efforts," Noah continued. "Someone who can capture both the environmental impact and the human stories. A photographer with a unique perspective and global experience." Brooke raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job, Mr. Dawson?" "More like a partnership," Noah clarified. You'd maintain your independence, continue taking other assignments that interest you. But when they align with our environmental work, or when you're between projects and something at Dawson Maritime catches your interest, I could document it, Brooke finished, intrigued by the idea, creating a visual narrative of your sustainability efforts. Exactly, Noah said, enthusiasm lighting his features. Your photographs could help tell the story of what we're trying to accomplish, give it a human face, show the impact on the ecosystems we're working to protect. Brooke considered the proposal. It was thoughtful, respecting her need for creative freedom while offering a connection to Noah's world that went beyond their personal relationship. I'd want final approval on how the images are used, she said, thinking aloud, and editorial independence. Of course, Noah agreed immediately. This wouldn't be corporate propaganda. It would be honest documentation, whatever the reality shows progress, setbacks, the complexity of the work. Then yes, Brooke decided. I think it's a brilliant idea, a way to blend our professional lives that feels authentic to both of us. Noah smiled, relief and happiness evident in his expression. I was hoping you'd say that. He reached into his pocket and pulled out another velvet box, larger than the one from the cliff. Which brings me to my next question. This time, when he opened the box, it did contain a diamond ring, elegant and understated, with a solitaire set in platinum that would pair perfectly with the sapphire promise ring she still wore on her right hand. Brooke Geller, Noah said, his voice steady despite the emotion evident in his eyes, you fell into my life unexpectedly and I've been falling for you ever since. Will you marry me? Yes, Brooke replied without hesitation, her heart full. Though I think technically you fell into my life, or at least under my hammock. Noah laughed as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Either way, it was the luckiest fall of my life. 1 year later, they were married in the cove where they had first kissed, on the platform Noah had built for Brooke's photography. The ceremony was intimate, with only close friends and family in attendance. Boats anchored in the cove carried the guests, while the bride and groom stood on the platform, exchanging vows against the backdrop of sea and sky. Brooke wore a simple silk dress that caught the ocean breeze, and Noah wore a light linen suit. They had written their own vows, promises that acknowledged their different paths, but affirmed their commitment to walking them together. I promise to support your wings, Noah said, his voice carrying across the cove, to never clip them, but to offer you a safe place to land whenever you need it. I promise to share what I see through my lens, Brooke responded, to help you notice the beauty in small moments and to always find my way back to you, no matter how far I roam. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, seabirds circled overhead, their calls a natural celebration. Brooke had set up a remote camera to capture the moment. But for once, she wasn't thinking about the perfect shot. She was fully present, experiencing rather than documenting, her heart overflowing with love for the man who had caught her when she fell and helped her find a balance she hadn't known was possible. Later, at the reception held at Noah's now their coastal home, Elena, Noah's housekeeper who had become a dear friend to Brooke, approached the newlyweds with tears in her eyes. I have worked for Mr. Noah for 10 years, she said, her accent thick with emotion. Never have I seen him so happy, so at peace. You have given him what all his success could not. Brooke squeezed Noah's hand, touched by Elena's words. He's given me just as much, she replied honestly. A home that doesn't hold me back but gives me the courage to fly farther. As the evening progressed, Brooke found a moment to step away from the celebration, walking to the edge of the cliff where a viewing platform similar to the one in the cove had been built. Noah joined her a few minutes later, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Having second thoughts, Mrs. Dawson, he teased gently. Never, Brooke replied, leaning back against his chest. Just taking a mental photograph to add to my collection of perfect moments. And what would the caption be for this one? Noah asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Brooke smiled, turning in his arms to face him. Sometimes the best adventures begin with a fall. Noah's answering smile was tender as he pulled her close. And sometimes catching someone who falls changes your life forever. As they stood together watching the sun set over the ocean, Brooke thought about the unlikely path that had led them here, from a broken hammock to a promised platform, to this moment of perfect union. Their story had begun with a literal fall, but it had evolved into something far more meaningful. Two people with different worlds finding a way to build one together, without either having to sacrifice what made them who they were. In the years that followed, Brooke continued her photography career, documenting wildlife around the globe. But now she had a home base, a place where her heart resided even when her body was halfway across the world. And Noah found that sharing his life with Brooke brought a richness to his existence that all his business success never had. They faced challenges. Of course, weeks of separation when Brooke's assignments took her to remote locations. Difficult decisions about priorities and compromises. But they navigated these with the same care and respect that had characterized their relationship from the beginning, each supporting the other's dreams while nurturing the life they were building together. When their first child was born 2 years after their wedding, a daughter with Noah's blue eyes and Brooke's adventurous spirit, they named her Amelia, after the pioneering aviator who had charted her own course across the skies. It seemed fitting for the child of a woman who refused to be grounded, and a man who had learned to embrace the joy of unexpected flight. Standing in the nursery of their coastal home, watching Noah cradle their newborn daughter with a look of wonder on his face, Brooke felt a completeness she had never imagined possible. Her camera sat unused on a nearby shelf. Some moments were too perfect to view through a lens, too precious not to experience with her full attention. "She has your eyes," Brooke said softly, joining her husband and daughter by the window that overlooked the ocean. "And your fearlessness," Noah replied, gently stroking Amelia's tiny cheek. "God help us when she learns to climb." Brooke laughed, leaning her head against Noah's shoulder. "We'll get her a safer hammock than mine was." Noah pressed a kiss to Brooke's forehead, his expression tender. "That hammock breaking was the best thing that ever happened to me." "To us," Brooke corrected, her heart full as she gazed at their daughter. "The best thing that ever happened to us." And as the three of them stood together in the golden light of sunset, Brooke knew with absolute certainty that all her wanderings had led her exactly where she was meant to be, caught in the embrace of a man who had been strong enough to catch her when she fell, wise enough to let her fly when she needed to, and loving enough to build a life where she could do both.